Hello guys, so we get quite a lot of emails from people like this one who are not sure if QuickAdminPanel is right for their project. So in this video I want to answer that question in a video format and also make a demo of what QuickAdminPanel actually does and how it works. And there will be a very short 1-minute version, and then I will actually create a similar project to this one. So the project we're talking about is an invoice creator with such structure exactly as the person sent it to me. So there's admins, companies, insurances, clients, and invoices, and settings, and a few things to make it all work together. So CRUDS, some nodes, who can do what, so status 1 or 2, companies cannot edit or delete their clients, and stuff like that. So to create something like that in QuickAdminPanel, of course it wouldn't create the full project for you, but that structure is totally possible. So QuickAdminPanel is mostly generator of the structure of the database with CRUDS on top and with roles and permissions to access that. So that is totally possible. Then on top of that, there are a lot of features that we obviously do not have because they are custom. For example, add QR code. We don't have any module about QR code. We have some modules and we will use a few of them. Or for example, getting reports of companies' profits. We don't know the profit formula or anything, so we cannot create custom features like that, obviously. But what you can do in QuickAdminPanel, and here's a short 1-minute version, you create a new project, you choose one of the 3 generator versions. I will choose the latest one, Livewire plus Tailwind. You create a project, you give it a name, like insurance test. You create a project. By default, the project comes with roles and permissions. Then you create more CRUDs, like clients, for example, the CRUD with fields, client name, and stuff like that. You save the CRUD. Then you go into the module section. So you install, for example, in our case, multi-tenancy with teams because that project required companies. So you install that. And then after a few installation of modules and CRUDs, you then download the code. So on the left-hand side, you see download full code. And here's an instruction to install that code. It's a pretty typical Laravel project. So just composer install and artisan migrate. And then locally you have something like this. You log in as admin, and then you can work on roles. So this is a step number 2. So for user management roles, you can add more roles, which I did already as a manager. I added a manager role with the permissions. And then you actually go into the code and customize code however you want. This is the generated code, for example, and you want to customize something in the permission controller, for example. This is how it looks. So it's a typical Laravel code. For customizing, you obviously need the knowledge of Laravel. Okay, so that was the short version, so you would understand how QuickAdminPanel works. Now let's make a bit longer version for that specific project, step by step, so that person would be getting the value from this video and the answer to their email. So let's create a new project. I will also use Livewire and Tailwind, but actually for this project it doesn't matter that much because the logic will be the same. It's just the choice of which stack do you prefer and work with. So I choose the latest Livewire and Tailwind. Let's call the project Insurances. We create the project, and first thing that we'll need to install is multi-tenancy module for teams specifically. Multi-tenancy means that each user will be able to access only the records that they created. And we have 2 types of multi-tenancies, for users and for teams. So in this case, in case of this project, there will be companies. So each company will see only their clients and only their invoices and only their insurances. In this case, the author even added email password to companies, but it makes more sense to have users with email password, which could belong to a company. In our case, it's called team, and team may have more users in the future. So we go to modules, we install multi-tenancy with teams. It will automatically create the CRUD for teams. You may rename it into companies later if you want to. And then we will enable that multi-tenancy module in the CRUDs that we will create. So now let's create the CRUDs. What CRUDs do we need? Let's look at the list. Companies is already created. So we have insurances, clients, and invoices, and settings. And all of them should be company-based, so with multi-tenancy. Let's start with insurances. So create CRUD menu item called insurances. What fields do we need? Name, cost, status, and date created. Date created is automatically with QuickAdminPanel and Laravel. It's created at and updated at in every table. So name, cost, and status. For name, we have a field of text type, name, validation required, save. Then cost, there is a separate type field called money. So cost. and then status 1 or 0, I would rename that field to is active with a checkbox. So is active will be, this is the field name in the database, and this is how it will be visually represented. By default, let's make it checked. We save, and we save CRUD, and now I have insurances. And I forgot one more thing. We can add it back, and we need to tick that checkbox of use multi-tenancy for that specific CRUD. Then every company user, team user will see only the insurances of their team. In a similar fashion, we create clients, invoices. For this video, I don't want to make it 1 hour long and create it step by step. I just stop on the main important parts. So invoices, for example, how to define relationships. So we create invoices, and then we need to choose the, for example, insurance ID. At this point, we don't have clients yet, but we have insurances. So we have a field called belongs to relationship. We define that it's insurance, and then all we need to do is to choose the model from the list, choose the name of the field that will be visible in the visual table, we save, and that's it. So we don't need to create insurance ID as a field, it will be created automatically. And company ID will be created automatically by use multi-tenancy. So that's it, we create invoices, we save the CRUD invoices. And final thing that we use from QuickAdminPanel before we download the code is a registration module, because we have for admins or for users, actually we have status 1 or 0. You can create it manually and you can edit the user's CRUD, but there's a registration module, and we will not use registration directly, but registration module has one feature. So if you go to module, click registration, it will ask you whether you want to verify the email of new users or users may be approved by administrator. And this is exactly what we need. We need approval by administrator, so we will implement that approval, but we will then remove the registration itself. So users would be able to approve or disapprove the users from their dashboard, but without registration. And now we can download the panel, create the role for manager specifically, so this one, and then I will show you a few examples of customizing the code. Okay, so we click download full code. Then I unarchive with my MacBook, and this is the structure of the downloaded code, a typical Laravel project. So I will copy and paste that into a separate folder that I've prepared for that project specifically. So here I am in my terminal. Project 4 will be the local folder, and the URL will be project4.test on my local, powered by Laravel Valet server. And what we need to do here is to do composer install. Okay, successfully. Then you need to edit the .env file, which I did already behind the scenes. So you need to assign app URL, database credentials, and stuff like that. And then you do PHP artisan migrate fresh seed, and that seed is required to seed the administrator user for you and some roles and permissions. And then if I go to project4.test login, the default credentials are admin.com, password is password, and I'm inside of my admin panel. So this was done without any coding. I didn't open PHP Storm at all for now. And the last thing that we can do without code is we can customize the roles and permissions. So under the user management, you have roles and users. And by default, we have two roles with admin and user. And by default, user has all the rights to everything except user management, but you can change that. But in our case, what we need to do is to add a manager role. And according to the original specification, the manager has the same admin's permission, but they cannot manage admins and getting reports. We didn't create reports in this case, but managers will not be able to edit users basically. So we can add a role called manager, and let's select all the permissions, but then remove everything related to user management. So user management, permission, everything. Every CRUD has 5 different permissions for managing, so seeing the menu item, then create, edit, show, and delete this. So 5 permissions against the roles, permissions related to the roles, then 5 permissions related to user, and then teams. They are not supposed to edit the teams either. For everything else, you can uncheck something else if you want, but let's leave it as it is, and manager has these permissions. And also, according to the original specification, companies cannot edit or delete their clients after inserting them into the database. So we need to, for regular user, which will be company user, we need to remove a few permissions. So we edit, and in this case, we didn't create the client CRUD, but just as an example, for example, they are not supposed to edit the invoices, so you just remove invoice delete and invoice edit, and you save, and this is the permission set, the final permission set. So this was the final thing that we did before diving into the code. Now, how to customize the code if you want to. So here I have opened the project in my PHP Storm, and I mentioned to you before that we need to remove the registration, which is now here at the bottom. So now people can register. According to the official documentation, they should not register. They should be invited by administrator. So to remove that registration link, in the routes web, there is a function auth routes, which comes from Laravel version earlier than Laravel 8, but originally our QuickAdminPanel is based on Laravel UI, which is still available as a package. So if you go to auth routes, it's actually even throw an exception. In order to use the auth routes, please install the Laravel UI, which we did inside of our generator. So to disable registration, all you need to do is to pass the parameter register false. And then if we refresh the page of our login form, we don't see the register link anymore because it's not in the routes. So this is just one example of customization. If you want to customize anything else, for example, in the home controller, you have admin home blade, you open the blade file, and instead of you are logged in, for example, you want to change to please choose menu from the left, something like this, you save. And if you log in with correct credentials, you have please choose menu from the left. So this is how you customize Laravel code then in Blade, in models, in controllers. If you chose Livewire version, you probably will need to dive into Livewire components, which are in app, HTTP, Livewire, and then each CRUD has its own components for create and index and edit, stuff like that. So then you put on your coder cap, developer cap, the whole project structure is pre-generated for you, and then you move on with your custom logic. So that's it. I hope it is clear what QuickAdminPanel does now and whether it suits your project and what would be in your case the balance of what you can generate and what is the amount of custom code needed afterwards. But for this example, for this project, I think personally that QuickAdminPanel suits really well because the structure is predefined. You need to just create the CRUDS for that and then add custom code for like 30% of the rest of the project. If you have a similar scope project that you need to create, I hope you will consider QuickAdminPanel.com, try it out, and if you have any feedback, shoot in the comments below, and see you guys in other videos.